Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's rendition of my content UX audit. So, really quick, just a little bit of housekeeping. Gonna make sure that the stream is working. Last time I did this, it went offline after like a minute, and I'm trying to determine if the way that I'm doing this right now makes the most sense, or if I should use like my phone Wi-Fi instead, because it might be a little bit more reliable. And it's like not necessarily looking like it's working, so that's a little bit concerning. So let me just check something besides LinkedIn where I usually expect it to stream. Hopefully everything is working, but it doesn't necessarily look like it. So let me just check this out. And while I'm doing that, I will mention that you can submit your content for a future UX audit using this link here, blogsmith.tips, without the vowels in Blogsmith, /content UX. It will take you to a form where you can enter some very basic details about the content that you would like audited, similar to what we're doing today. And yeah, this is so weird. It's just like not showing up on LinkedIn. So this may end up being a recorded session again, and then I have to figure out why it's just not working the way that I want it to. So yeah, who knows? But I guess we will just go ahead and get started. I might check one more thing real quick here, just to see if the streaming platform is actually picking this up. Maybe I set it up weird this time. I don't know. I don't want to spend too much time like wasting people's time if it's not working the way as intended and how I'm talking about it. But at least have one viewer, so it must be streaming somewhere. Yeah, I just don't know why it's not going on LinkedIn specifically, but it should. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started. So today I have a submission from the last content UX audit that I did, which was for Green Geeks, which is a web host. And this was just one that I didn't have time to get to during the live event. You can check out that recording if you're interested on Green Geeks YouTube channel. And basically we kind of just did like a power hour, like went through, I think 4 UX audits that day, content UX audits, and it was just like 10 minutes each, something like that. So this was just a carryover from that I didn't get to talk about then. And so this is for a dentist practice. It's called WeDoTeeth, and they're located, I guess, both in Philadelphia and New Jersey per this page. And so basically the prompt here was the overall impression of the website, like the design, and my opinion on the potential of expansion of this dental implants topic. Specifically, should it be a specific landing page? Are there other content ideas that could like factor in here? Should it be like in this section? Should it be in a blog? So just some questions, I guess, about like, the specific format of how this information is coming across. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into it. So, first note in general, I don't know that I'm going to go through more of the website than this page, because I do have a lot of thoughts for this page, and it's kind of an interesting one too, because it's about local SEO in addition to just like content and SEO in general, or it's about a local business, I guess. So it is a different approach. There are different things that I'm kind of looking at that I would compared to something where it's like an enterprise B2B tech brand, right? There's going to be a different end audience, and there's going to be a different way of reaching those goals. So I want to kind of start by keeping that in mind. The first thing I'll note, and I think it's like everything I'm going to say is to be taken with a little bit of a grain of salt. I think, like I just said, the needs of like selling B2B is going to be so different than the needs of selling to B2C. And also something like a dental practice, it's like how distinctive does the content really need to be in order to achieve that end goal of like bringing more people in, getting them to come back. I think at the end of the day, like if I were to give like a summary before getting into things, like what we're trying to do here is to just like answer people's questions and set expectations. I think that's ultimately what every business really should be doing on their website. But I think that like that's kind of like my guiding force in what my guidance is here, because I do think it's different. Like the content needs, for example, of an enterprise brand versus a local business that you want to have some distinction, but distinction is maybe not as important, right? It's location ultimately, and you know, within that location, you want to pick the person that, for a dentist, for example, that will accept your insurance. You know, someone that you can trust because it's your mouth, and people have fears of the dentist, and rightly so if they've had a bad experience with one. So again, it's not so much about creating super distinctiveness, but it is about like answering those questions proactively and setting those expectations. So that's what my guidance is going to be specifically. But I do have to also like add the thoughts that are in the back of my head that are screaming to come out. And so the first one is that just in terms of the website design itself, like looking at this header area and looking at the rest of the website, which we're not really going to do today, a lot of the images are kind of generic stock photos. And so kind of my question to myself is like, does it matter, right? Because of everything that I just said. And I think in this case, it doesn't really matter, because they are at least consistent with each other. So like I kind of get like a sense of branding in that way, not distinctiveness, but just in terms of consistency, which is important. I think it builds trust. But what I would say, maybe like a challenge here, is maybe instead of those generic stock photos, what could be more impactful is having pictures of like actual clients. And like the dentist, I think it's one person in particular, on the homepage, we kind of learn a little bit about the dentist himself. And if we look maybe at the team, there's probably other dentists too. Now I'm getting into a tangent, but I was gonna say like pictures of like the staff, whether it's like the dentists themselves or, you know, the hygienists, even the receptionists. Like I think there's like a lot of great potential, and when it comes to working with clients specifically and like using their likeness on your website, obviously you have to get their permission, so that's another important thing to consider. But you know, it could also be a situation if you're getting photography specifically for this website, you know, that is going to create that impact, that is going to showcase like your team. You know, maybe there's a case to be made for like they get a little bit of a discount if they're willing to, you know, bear their teeth problems on the web. So going through, I don't know that we need to have breadcrumbs on a website of this size. That's just kind of a personal thing. I like having them in general. I don't think it's like a miss. But this hero image section is really taking up a lot of space. It's not a bad thing, but I think we kind of want to get to the point quicker, right? And so one thing that we could do is take that away. And then the other thing that we could do is, again, maybe changing up the imagery so that it takes up less space as well, potentially. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of space, like, before we get to kind of like the main point. And it is above the fold, at least on my computer, but I have a big monitor, so that also factors in. One question I had was like, what drives what goes into the sidebar? Because we have a link, and this actually links to later in the page, this FAQ, but I think the other ones link off page. And so we have something about like all of our services. It looks like we have like a specific service. Yeah. And then we also have like meet our team. All of these like kind of make sense to me. But they also kind of distract from the main point. Like, I don't know that they're so important that they be here, that it's worth having the sidebar, and I just don't know what's driving it specifically, like why these links, outside of like maybe the FAQ, which it doesn't take that long to get to that. So I might suggest getting rid of the sidebar, at least for like this type of almost like landing page, service page, so that it can focus on just the content itself and take up like a wider container space. Another thought I had just from like the user experience point of view is in this heading, I'm sure there's kind of like an SEO purpose to this, like a local SEO purpose. I don't think it would hurt, like maybe you're kind of thinking exact match keywords or something. I don't think it would hurt to add the specific city in Philadelphia and New Jersey, because we do get to that later on in this page, Turnersville, Winmore. But it seems like a miss to not say that earlier, because ultimately, like, somebody needs to know if this is close enough to them, because if it's not, they're probably not going to go, unless it's like a really specific service that they're not going to get somewhere else, or, you know, maybe like they've traveled away from this area, but they want to go back to that dentist. But again, that's just not going to be the majority of people. And especially for, I think, a service like this, which is kind of a common one. So yeah, just to like add that so that people understand if it's worth continuing to read past that point. I think there are a lot of opportunities here to complement the text itself with imagery. And like I said, it would be great if we could have patients featured, but we could also show, I mean, this actually could be a really great use case for like the stock imagery, something that shows kind of like, well, first of all, the different types of dental implants. We have like a single tooth situation. We have full arch, which refers to like many teeth or like your full mouth. And so being able to kind of see like what would that actually look like? What are the different steps that they take? They have to, like, for example, they talk about, and like maybe a lot of people already know about how dentistry works, but this is something that is like outside of like what I know and what I've dealt with. But they talk about like you have to kind of like make an incision to like get the implant in, and they talk about, okay, there's going to be sutures, you know, different like stages. That maybe it would be kind of scary to see that as a patient, but I think it would also set expectations, because I think when it comes to like, again, dentistry in general, it's like if you've had a prior negative experience, that's going to slow you down from seeking help. And then even when you go to seek help, like you probably still want to know what you're going to be dealing with, so that you like actually get the courage to book the appointment, basically. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for that. I'll see if I can call out any other details such as that. I mean, even like this first paragraph here that just describes it in general. Again, there's probably stock imagery for this that works just fine. But again, I would love to see some interspersed images of the dentist, of the patients. It doesn't have to be like a ton of images either. I'm just calling out some opportunities where that makes sense. So let's see. There's definitely some opportunities here to add some formatting just to make this flow a little bit better, to just be easier to like skim. You know, like you're a great candidate for dental implants, blah. If you're in good health, have healthy gums, sufficient bone, these would be all like a great bullet list, for example. There were some other things as we go through, like in the FAQs. I have some thoughts about the FAQs too that we could get into, but like bullets I think would be nice for any of these like kind of lists. It's like if you start to have a lot of text and it's not like a separate subheading, then I do like adding a bullet list when it's a list, because it just kind of like makes sense of that, at least to my brain. I think to a lot of people's brains, to group them in a sense. And this just kind of almost feels, in general, not just on this website, you know, like it's how do I even say this? It's like it just needs more formatting, I guess is what I'm saying, to create that grouping, whether that is a subheading or bullet points, but I wouldn't leave it just like this. And it's kind of hard to describe why. I was kind of like looking through the content itself, because one of the questions was like, you know, where should this live? Like, how can I support, you know, like this page? And so I think there are a lot of follow-up topics. It's basically anything that like I have a question about here. And again, I'm not like the perfect person because I'm not shopping for these services right now. But a couple of things that come to mind are topics like there's something about like having like a quality home care regiment. There it is. So it's like, you're a great candidate, like if you can follow these different things. Maybe it's worth like expanding on that. I mean, my thought is like, you know, if what I would expect the dentist to say is like floss, you know, brush with an electric brush, you know, whatever. But maybe there are some more things specifically for dental implants, because, you know, it's just a different thing. And as like we go through the content itself, we're talking about the process. It takes a couple of months. So maybe there are some extra steps. That would be a great follow-up piece of topic, follow-up piece of content. And then another one that I was thinking of, just like specifically reading about the process here, was like, what should people expect pain-wise, both like when they're undergoing these different procedures, but also like during that 3 to 6 month process, just to set expectations. I thought that it might be nice, and maybe this is obvious, but I thought that it might be nice to add some call out boxes that just say, this is for you. And again, this is probably a bad example because it's like single tooth versus more than one tooth. But full arch doesn't immediately make sense to me. So like that one would be a really good place to put a call out box. This is for you if you have, multiple, a need for like replacing multiple teeth or something. This is for you if you just have one. We kind of say that in the text. I'm just giving some ideas for formatting it different ways. And also, again, like setting expectations, making it really relevant. Like I was saying about, adding the cities to the header, the specific cities. That's kind of what I'm talking about here. It's like, should I keep reading or not? Should I keep reading this section or should I maybe skip to the next one because that's going to be more relevant to me? What else did I want to say? One of the questions that I had when reading through this, outside of the process itself, which I think is really great, and that's something that, like, I would want to see, from any medical or however you would call it, like any sort of like practice that I'm going for like a specific service, for example, or specific treatment. It's good to kind of know what to expect, and I think they do a really good job on this website describing that process. Again, images would make it more compelling, set more expectations, but I think that specific like job has been done really well. But my follow-up question is like, what's this look like specifically at your practice? Like, are there any differences in how like you handle dental implants versus, the other dentist down the street? And again, maybe distinction doesn't matter, but it's about painting that picture of like, I am a person seeking the service. I'm, probably nervous because I know it's gonna be painful and it's gonna be expensive. So like, who is going to be like that painkiller for me? Is it going to be you? Is it going to be some other dentist? How can you sort of like story tell that in here? And specifically, like, is there anything that you could say like about, the dental staff, like the dentists, and like, did they, I don't know, specialize in this? Have they had some like interesting cases? I don't know. That filling out the blanks there is kind of outside of my scope, but just to show, like, why would we choose you over somebody who could do this same procedure, and answering that question, like, up front. I don't know if this makes sense in dentistry in general, but, like, can we set any expectations in terms of pricing? Can we give a range starting at, full investment for something like this? That would be good to know. Couple other just like quick thoughts here. This animation, I'm not sure if I like it or not. It draws attention, which I think is the point, to the contact us call to action. But in a sense, it kind of reminds me of a scrolling marquee, and I know that that's not really what's going on here. I just like don't know if I like website animations in general. I think they might be like kind of coming into vogue right now, so I might be like a stick in the mud for saying this, but I just think it's distracting. Again, it serves the point of drawing attention there, but maybe it's also like taking away from the content itself. So just putting that out there. Let's talk about and I like the call to action is another thing that I was gonna say. Let us restore your smile. It's cute, it's on brand. All right, so now we have the FAQs. This is definitely like a trend in content right now to add these FAQs and to add them in this particular way where they're kind of like at the end of the article, they have this separate, subheading, and then oftentimes it's this sort of like accordion situation where you can expand. I think this one was open when I opened the page. So that's always good too, to have like one that's always open so that people know that they should be interacting with them if they want to see more content. I'm personally not a huge fan of this. I know it's a trend. I know there's an SEO value to it, but it feels kind of clunky to me. And this is my like stick in the mud opinion, because it's like, I think that this should be more like weaved into the content, or it should be like a totally separate topic that you link to. So it is a great, like, if you're trying to build up like kind of like a pillar right around dental implants, for example, then these are like some great like starter topic ideas. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I think in terms of actual like implementation, like the best practices are more or less followed here. I mentioned about formatting using like the bullet lists. But other than that, I think they're fine. They are a little bit long. So that was my other thing, is like I would generally expect an FAQ to maybe be like, I don't know, 2 to 3 maybe meaty paragraphs. But if it goes over that, that is a really good use case to then separate that out into a different page that you can link to, which is then more opportunities to show up in relevant search and serve, you know, useful content to your readers. Okay. Another thing that I'll just say about FAQs in general is like, I think they're a really great opportunity to push for people to get in touch. So it's like, hey, didn't see your question answered, you know, give us a call or whatever. So just adding some sort of CTA at the end here. I wanted to call attention to this like final CTA down here to schedule the appointment. It has this little phone icon on it. And as a millennial, clicking on that button gives me like a high amount of anxiety because I think that it's going to like accidentally like start calling them, like open FaceTime or something. And so I'm just putting that out there from my point of view. Like, I don't know who your like perfect ideal customer is for this dentistry practice or for dental implants. They might skew a little bit older. That might not be like their anxiety. I don't like having the phone icon in there because it makes me think that if I click it, it's gonna call, and I might be doing research, right? Like I might not be in a place where I can like get on the phone right now, and so just that like jolt is like a bad experience for somebody like me and my fellow millennials. So I'd rather just be a button so that I know that it actually goes to the contact form, which I did test before this and knew that if I clicked it, it wouldn't call them. You can kind of see this like parallax effect is kind of covering up the footer weird. So there might be a way to fix that. Not a really big deal. But then one thing I noticed is just an inconsistency. The footer has an Instagram link, but if you go up to the top bar here, it also has Facebook. Don't know if it like super matters to put the Facebook there. I kind of see Facebook for businesses as kind of a dead platform for, I guess, organic reach. I think it's still very like great for paid stuff. But in terms of like, should you be like directing people there, right? Like, are you trying to build an audience there? I don't know. I mean, I still post on Facebook for my business page, but it's more or less to just make it look like the doors are open. I'm not really trying to engage with people on there. I'm just trying to make it look like it's not, you know, like a dead business. Other than that, I mean, this is, again, a local business. I'm not a local SEO expert, know enough to be dangerous type of thing. But, you know, I think there is a missed opportunity in the footer where we should be adding the name, address, phone number. It's kind of a standard of local SEO. And then also it's a good place to repeat your links so that it's just easier for people to navigate. It's easier for kind of like Google to understand the interrelation of these different things. So I would add that. And then I think the last note that I have, and then I will wrap for today, is, again, this is a website that's hosted by Green Geeks. So they are all about sustainability and, you know, like keeping your carbon footprint low. I kind of wonder if this practice, I haven't confirmed this, I kind of wonder if like that sort of eco-friendliness extends, you know, to like the products they use and like the carbon footprint of like the physical space and, you know, things like that. That would be a really cool thing if so. And I'm guessing it's true because I don't think that they would host on Green Geeks if that wasn't at least a little bit important to them. It could also be, you know, the web developer's choice, right? And so it's like kind of like passing through. But if that is important to the dentist and it's important enough to put, you know, this in their footer, that would be a great thing, I think, to storytell throughout the website. You know, mostly more or less like on the homepage, or maybe there's some sort of like values, you know, like mission thing. But I don't really see, I haven't dug in deep, but I haven't necessarily seen like a mention of that besides that link and that banner. So I think that is like a compelling thing, and that's a differentiator. So I would just storytell it a little bit more and just mention it in general. So anyway, that is what I have for you this week. I'm always looking for volunteers, such as this one. This was a volunteer. And if you would like to volunteer your content for an audit, you can use this fancy link down here, blgsmth.tips/content UX. And using that link, it'll just ask like for your name, for the link. If you have anything in particular you want me to go over, like I did today, there was a prompt to respond to. But until next time, so the next one will be 2 weeks from now, same time, hopefully streaming everywhere. I need to do a little bit of tech workshopping here to figure out why I keep having like random but different issues. Thank you so much for joining me today. Bye.